the Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast that I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life. Because sometimes that's all it takes, a small shift in what we choose to believe to make the day a little better and to make us a little bit more awake, alive, and ascending. So today I am going to bravely talk about something that has been sitting right in the center of my heart, and that is grief. But before I do, I want to say something about why I'm even sharing this. I'm like pretty specific about what I talk about and what I don't talk about. And I don't usually talk about my romantic relationship life, not because it's secret by any means, but because I have some shame, I guess, around it. I don't have a conventional relationship. And sometimes that makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I'm not like long term married or long term partnered. And so when I share about love or partnership, I tend to just keep it really general, like tidy. But here's the truth, right? If I'm going to be in a relationship with you all, and if I'm going to be in a relationship with you all 5 days a week, and if I'm asking all of you every day to be real and vulnerable, then I probably need to redefine what vulnerable and real actually mean to me. So thank you for that. And here we are. I'm just doing the deeper work in real time with all of you. So I'm really, really grateful. So today I want to talk about a breakup, and I want to talk about love and grief and about how even when we think that we've evolved past certain kinds of pain, life just humbles itself up to us and helps to open our hearts just a little bit wider. And so I went through a breakup a few weeks ago. And it wasn't messy and it wasn't cruel, unfortunately, I feel like, because it was such a loving breakup, right? It was just one of the most loving breakups I ever experienced in my life. Just two people who really cared deeply about each other, but realized that they were on very, very different paths. And I wish that was the end of the story, but it's not really a good podcast if it's that, right? So my ego decided to jump in right in the center. And so because largely I was the one who initiated it, I just decided that I would be fine. I'd processed it, I understood it, and I'm a spiritual being and I was just evolved enough to handle it. Like, why should this hurt? Don't you love delusion? So the breakup was on a Friday. And that Saturday, my friend Michelle had her like famous fall party. And I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to go to Michelle's party. Like, and I got all dolled up. I even bought like a red lipstick, like Taylor Swift vibes. And I just like zippered up and put on my like, I'm totally fine energy. I'd like to share that anytime I say I'm totally fine, I'm never totally fine. But that's another podcast for another day. So I walk into the party, I see Michelle, it's like this beautiful vibe. And then I see Michelle's mom, and she somehow knows about the breakup. And she gives me that gentle, like, mom knowing look. And something in me, like, buckles, like the tears form in my eyes. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Like, get it together, Molly. And then this really peripheral friend of mine walks in and I freeze and I just like can't even breathe. And suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm not fine at all. I'm actually not okay. And I just picked up my bag and I slipped out quietly. I texted Michelle from the car and I was like, the grief hit. I'm like, sorry, I had to go. The grief hit. And boy, did it, my friends. Whew. And I spent that night basically like paralyzed in bed watching Diane Keaton movies, you know? and probably what I needed to do that whole day. I really, really overestimated it. Because since then, I've been like in and out of grief. Sometimes it's soft and quiet, and sometimes it's full and wild. Honestly, it feels like the circus. Sometimes there's a lion and sometimes there's a clown. I've been really impressed by it because I've been undone by it and like sort of surprised by it and really reminded of how powerful our hearts are and really, really reminded that grief does not follow rules. It doesn't care how advanced you are spiritually and emotionally. It doesn't care what you think you've learned. It just arrives and says, hey, I'm grief, here to teach you, here to grow you, you know? And so I was reminded of this book by Francis Weller, our pocket sage for today, The Wild Edge of Sorrow. Here's the note. I'm going to try to read it without crying, but maybe I'll cry. We'll get that intimate today. Grief and love are sisters, woven together from the beginning. Their kinship reminds us that there is no love that does not contain loss, and no loss that is not a reminder of the depth of our love. Grief is not a feeling that visits us occasionally. It is a faculty of being human. It is the soul's acknowledgement that something has been lost and it matters. For those of you in the back. Grief and love are sisters, woven together from the beginning. Their kinship reminds us that there is no love that does not contain loss, and no loss that is not a reminder of the depth of our love. Grief is not a feeling that visits us occasionally. It is a faculty of being human. It is the soul's acknowledgement that something has been lost and it matters. Woof. And it matters. That one gets me every time. Because like it reframes this grief not as a failure or a weakness, but as proof that we've lived and loved deeply. And I'm really proud of that. This grief has really been reminding me that healing is not about outsmarting your feelings. What an old snow groove that I decided to go to. Because I really believe that life and grief, it's about allowing feelings and letting them flow through us. And, grief is not an interruption to life. It is life. It's the exhale after love's inhale. And I know that, as someone who's been doing the work for a long time, sometimes I can assume that understanding something is going to protect me from feeling it, which is wild, right? Grief doesn't live in our head. It doesn't matter how deeply I understand it. It lives in my heart, and my heart needs to feel. It's a big one, my heart. And so when I stopped trying to categorize it or minimize it, and I just let the grief live with me, something sacred has happened. It really has. It's like this pain has been able to soften into gratitude. And honestly, maybe that's our ascent today, right? Just to let grief be what it is, to stop judging how it shows up, and to trust that even and especially when it hurts, it's just making us more human, not less. And so our word of the day today is tenderness. Tenderness is when we hold our heart with the same care that we would offer someone that we love. It's when we let ourselves cry without rushing to stop. And it's when we forgive ourselves for being human. Tenderness is that quiet, steady energy that says, you're allowed to feel this. You're supposed to be feeling this, right? And when we choose tenderness, we start to heal not just ourselves, but the whole world around us. I understand grief in a deeper way than I did the last time I grieved now, right? And so every act of understanding softens me and allows me to be more compassionate to myself and to others. And so our question of the day, where in your life are you being asked to soften, even when everything in you wants to harden? And so remember, our word today is tenderness, not as a demand to fall apart, but as an invitation to stay open. And so until next time, I am here rooting you on through the chaos and through the still, with tenderness leading the way.